time to give up on the Rwanda plan? Get your calls in for this now. We'll speak to you in just a moment. Last night, the House of Lords defeated the government over its flagship Rwanda bill, which aims to deport asylum seekers to the East African country. Now, peers proposed several changes to the plan, which has meant that it would be delayed by months. Experts say that this now means flights may not take off until June, if they do take off at all. The Prime Minister says he hopes to be deporting people by the end of spring, but this scheme has been knocking back and forth for almost 2 years now. Angela, is it not just time to give it up?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, the thing is, it was not a popular idea. But remember, they were brought into power, the Tories, and one of their promises, one of their sort of landmark promises was to deal with illegal immigration. That was one of the pledges in 2019, and this perpetual sort of idea of stopping the small boats. We're talking about illegal immigration here, and we need to have some kind of offshore processing, because otherwise what's happening is you're prioritising the needs of people who are coming here illegally. They are chancing themselves in a very, very dangerous crossing. They're leaving the safe space of France. They're leaving a safe country, coming here, and then their needs are being prioritised over local services which are being stretched to capacity, hospitals, schools, all the things that we know. We have to find a way of A, dealing with the people who want to make the crossing, and B, send out a message that this is not what we're doing. And by the way, this is not some kind of extremist rant. You know, this country has been built on the benefits of multiculturalism and immigration, but immigration done in a controlled and correct way. Lots of us were grandchildren of immigrants. It's all wrong and it has to stop. And unless you can give me a credible alternative, Rwanda has to be the way forward.
What is the alternative, Graeme?
Well, I mean, better support. One of the things that rarely gets talked about is what are we doing about the people who are actually profiting from putting the people on these boats? You know, there's thousands and thousands of pounds going into it. You don't hear the government talk a tremendous amount about what we're doing to stop that from happening. In general, I mean, the thing I would definitely agree with is we should be a country that allows people in. We are not a country that allows a tremendous number of people in. We don't allow routes to asylum very easily, which is why people need to get on boats to do this. I think it's true to say that the government needs to address it. What I would say is it's got worse across the time that this government's been in power. But it's a thing that we should do through support and in continuation of the kind of values of this nation. And I don't think the Rwanda bill reflects that.
Well, the Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer had this to say about the Rwanda plan when a caller asked him about it earlier today.
What are you going to do about the small boats crossing? Because they're coming over these people, they're taking up places that people in England can use, homeless people. Now, what is your policy on doing that? Because obviously that could be a vote winner.
We've got to stop these boats coming over. There's no ifs or buts. It's a massive problem. And Pat, it gives this sense of having lost control of our borders. What I wouldn't do, Pat, is to grandstand or just try to find headlines in relation to gimmicks that won't work. And I think the Rwanda gimmick is a gimmick that won't work. There's only 300 people that are going to go if the scheme ever gets off the ground. There's 130,000 people in the system. So it's a drop in the ocean.
I've just been told in my ear, actually, that the Home Office has just announced that 500 migrants tried to cross the Channel just yesterday. So this is a huge number of people. It is a huge problem and clearly is affecting people at home that are worried about this. What are we going to use as a deterrent to stop people taking this terrible crossing?
Well, I would question whether or not there is a deterrent. Fundamentally, these are people who are prepared to take their lives, prepared to risk their lives in order to get here. They're people that are from places like the top 5 places include Eritrea, they include Iraq, Afghanistan, places we've played a part in their history.
But they're coming over from France.
But, I mean, they are, but
and other safe countries to get, with respect, Graeme, to get from Eritrea to Britain, you cross through various safe places, and God forbid anybody's fleeing from terrible situations, be it whatever, all the things that we know, don't need to list them here. Then the sheer relief of arriving in a safe space. You look at anything from the history of the Second World War to whenever there's been a refugee issue, the overwhelming relief of being somewhere where they're no longer exposed to those terrible situations should be enough to say, what's the extra bit about Britain? I don't understand why
But there isn't an extra. The answer is nearly every place they go through in Europe take in more refugees per head of capita than we do. We're 20th in that list. So when they're going through France and Belgium, they are taking more refugees. And I think there is we create a sense that Britain is the place that's taking all the refugees, but the data doesn't say that's the case.
So why are they still okay? So therefore, in answer to that point, if France has got a so-called more welcoming approach to refugees, why aren't they staying there?
I'm not saying
staying there. There is a fundamental issue here, which is when you flee, when you're in fight or flight mode, you have to. The human condition says, I need to get somewhere safe. To then have made that enormous journey and then expose yourself with extreme expense, you talk about the gangs and talk about the profiteers, to then expose yourself to making a very difficult crossing. Why would you do that? Why would you expose your children to that?
Because these people are human. And I mean, we as I said, we have indelible links to these sorts of places. Afghanistan and Iraq, they form parts of our history. And a lot of the people coming over here is because they have family here. A lot more of them stay in Europe where they first land. But some people have family here and they are fundamentally humans, and they are parents, and they want better things for their children. And
it's better to go in a dangerous crossing across 22 miles of very choppy.
Angela, why do you think that they're coming over here then? Because you're asking Graeme, but why do you think they're making
Because
that?
I think first of all, we semaphore that somehow once you get here, it will be a soft landing, that we are a civilised nation. We don't want anybody to be compromised in terms of their health and their personal safety. These are the values that are the scaffolding for this country, without question. And I would always want that. Like I said, come from a family of refugees, if you like. But that what's happening here is that there is a sense that it's a done deal, that it's okay to come to this country through an illegal route, through a way that has not been carefully sort of curated. And it's okay, because once you get here, once you get off that boat, it's all going to be cool. There'll be schools, there'll be hospitals, there'll be somewhere to live, there'll be something to live on. And until we sort of...
Is that not a nice reputation to have globally?
It's all very well saying nice, but you have to be able to afford to foot the bill for being nice. Even during the Second World War, when people were coming from manifestly difficult situations, there had to be some kind of surety put up, even for children that came over on the kinder transport. I am absolutely understanding that people are desperate, but there are profiteers who are optimising that desperation and allowing them to make that dangerous crossing, and it has to stop.
This won't address this. What it will address is this sense that Britain is a friendly country, which I'm not even sure is true. We don't take a tremendous amount of refugees per capita, but what it will address, the thing that I sit here rightly proud of is this is a country that has been able to, that has helped people in their time of need. This is a clarion call to say, we aren't that country anymore. We don't care about your problems. We don't care that you've come from famine or war, or that you're homosexual and not allowed to be that. We don't care anymore. We're not that kind of country. And yeah, it is a gimmick. Just to come back to what Keir Starmer says, it's a gimmick. It's because the government wants this argument at this point, because it's losing every other argument. It's going to cost 1.8 million for every single all of the first 300 people that go. Convince me that is the right way to spend money.
OK, let me go to the callers. Kadria from London, what's your thoughts on this? Should we just leave the Rwanda plan alone and move on?
Absolutely not. We are a political asylum ourselves. We came here, me and my husband. We came here in 1982.
Okay, where from?
From Iraqi Kurdistan. Okay. My husband and his three brothers were doctors, and they took two of them to the front line. They said, we're supposed to be saving lives, not killing people. And he decided to leave, so we left, and we end up here. Actually, we were on the news on Guardian, I think, because the immigration asked us to stay here. We didn't want to stay here. We wanted to go to Canada. They asked us to stay here. They said, we need doctors, we need nurses. Anyway, cut the long story short, we are here now. And I speak 5 languages, so I have done voluntarily interpreting and paid interpreting. Mm-hmm. So people I talk to, they make me really angry, and embarrassed because they lie and lie and lie about why they're here. Some of them pretend they were gay, then they forget, they talk to their family. I could hear them talking to their wives. And they pretend they are like 15 when they are 22 or 23.
Do you think this is a large percentage of the people coming over, or a small percentage?
Worldwide, usually young people. And so that way they affecting this country and their own country. Sorry, I can't hear you.
No, you can't hear us because we're listening, Kadria.
Okay.
But so you think we need to keep on with the Rwanda plan then?
Yes, because I know 99.9% people, if they know they're going to Rwanda, they will never start. They will never leave their country because they're affecting their own country. Their country needs people to work. They don't. They come here. They work cash in hand, they never pay tax, and they get the benefits and housing benefits and the rest of it. And
why do you think why do you think the Home Office accepts 63%, around 63% of the asylum claims?
I have no idea, but people I interpret it for. I have stories and stories to tell. They lie about everything. They pretend they are crazy, so they will get incapacity benefit when they are not. I have.
You seem to have a lot of insight, Kadria. Do you work in immigration?
No.
Where are you getting this from?
I used to be a nurse, then I had my children, so I done other job like interpreting. Now I'm in property business, so I don't work.
So I suppose in interpreting, you may have come across some of these stories.
I came across, so many people. I know for sure if they knew they're going to Rwanda, they will never start, especially this dangerous journey, putting their lives and their family's life in danger, coming by boat and all that. It's ridiculous.
Kadria, thank you very much for your call. We're going to speak to Leslie Ann from East Sussex now. What do you think about the Rwanda plan? Do you think it'll work?
Well, I mean, it's possible, but the trouble is, I don't see the alternative. Keir Starmer was very unconvincing earlier on as an alternative to what Rishi Sunak is doing. I mean, what is Labour's alternative? It's very vague. I mean, you can't, unless France, Germany, Italy, Spain, UK all get together and bring out sort of almost European-wide legislation against these criminal gangs, how can anybody put a stop to it?
Leslie Ann, that is an alternative, isn't it?
It is an alternative, but that's not what Keir Starmer said.
Well, he said to attack you need to attack the gangs that are taking the money from these people. So similar.
Yes. Well, we do, but it doesn't seem possible, does it? He said himself he went to France and there was nothing doing. The French would not cooperate.
And I think Leslie, you make a very important point there, because if there is such an overwhelming issue in places like France, and as you mentioned, Graeme, that they take disproportionately more people, then where would the country be incentivised to keep people there, rather than just turning a blind eye? If people want to get on boats, it's no longer, as soon as they're outside of French the coastal jurisdiction, it's not our problem.
Which is why Leslie Ann is saying that you're going to have to get all of Europe working together to try
like a European Union, that kind of thing.
I like it. Union, yes,
that could work.
Similar to that. See where we're going with that. Different debate just now. Leslie Ann, thank you very much for your call. Peter from Bridgend, your thoughts on the Rwanda plan, please.
Oh, good morning, Storm. Good morning, panel. I think the money could be spent better, really, because I remember years ago, people were dying in the back of lorries coming over, and that was stopped. I can't remember how it was stopped, but that was stopped.
Well, I think checks and punishing companies that get caught with people in the back of their vans sort of I'm not sure it stopped, but certainly stymied it somewhat.
It disincentivised, that's the issue.
Yeah.
Well, it got everybody involved, didn't it? Everyone was going to get punished if somebody managed to make that crossing.
Right.
So
that was probably easier to do then because there's companies, so that was probably easier to do. But what I'm talking about now, years ago, the funding for the sea border control, as in the ships on the sea border, the funding was annihilated. And then the boats started coming over and people's lives are at risk coming over. Now, forget about the moral and ethical things, which I don't agree morally and ethically about Rwanda. But that's a bit of a sterile argument because everybody will disagree or agree about that. But if we pump money into sea border patrols and send people back from going over our border, then I think that might be one solution.
I think what we did, Peter, well. It's not a bad idea. I think what we did was give money to France for their border controls to do more.
Yeah.
That hasn't seemed to work. And I don't think we've got any right to send people back to France anymore. I think there's a bit of an issue with that. But it's an interesting point. Maybe we need to strengthen our borders, Angela, rather than send people once they've already made it across to Rwanda.
Which technically is, I suppose, what Rwanda is. It's a way of this, as I said before, this offshore processing. Because what is a border? It's a wall. It prevents you from becoming part of the nation. It becomes part of that sovereign state. And whether you do that physically, with the kind of lamentable Mexico example, or you do it by having some kind of legal process which says you will have no status in this country if you stay here.
Why don't we set that up in France then?
I agree with you. I mean, Sir Gimmick, who was on the show earlier with Jeremy, I mean, that talk about an irony. It's a gimmick, says he, as the puppet strings moved up and down. But there is no credible alternative. I would buy it. I'm not here as kind of somebody who's waving the flag for Rwanda because it is pitch perfect. But in the absence of an alternative, what is there to do?
Well, what about the legal implications of this? Because the Supreme Court have said that it's not a goer. And they're trying to sort of surpass that. What sort of signal is that sending out? And is that an appropriate way for a government to behave?
Well, look, the Supreme Court has a certain level of legal legitimacy. It's our absolute court in this land. But equally, the government wouldn't be taking on an illegal course of action if they thought that from a purely legislative perspective, I hate saying that word, that it would be a waste of time. It would be completely counterintuitive. The fact that they are proceeding with that, that's the ultimate sort of level of jurisdiction in this country, is our government. And if the government feels there is a legitimate right to challenge that, then they'll go forward.
Can I just remind us that the reason why the Supreme Court disagreed with it is things like people being persecuted that were asylum seekers in Rwanda previously. The other thing is, fundamentally, this is still a gimmick. As to whether there's not another answer, this isn't an answer. It won't work. The thing that, and finally, why it's a gimmick is what the Lords actually said yesterday is, well, can we actually let this play out and deliver the changes you're promising in Rwanda in order to satisfy the Supreme Court? The answer is no, because we want to get it done before we're voted out in October.
There are tour operators that can take British tourists to Rwanda. This concept...
It's a very different thing to be going over there as a tourist, isn't it, than going over there
Agreed,
as
but equally you have...
asylum claimant.
Maybe so, but there is Foreign Office advice in place
the Supreme Court would know that.
For certain countries that say don't go there. There isn't Foreign Office advice saying to British people, don't go to Rwanda.
British people. Peter, thank you very much for your call. Linda from Conway, what's your view on the Rwanda plan? Do you think it's a good idea?
Not in the least. And I do agree with the gentleman on your panel that an EU plan would be wonderful.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's going to fly, Linda.
No, no.
It's me and Linda at least, anyway, we're with each other.
In the sense that,
Hopefully.
do you not think the government has tried to negotiate with France? I mean, we're offering them more money in order to stop these boats from even making it off their shore. That doesn't seem to have worked.
Look, do you know how long the French coastline is? They couldn't possibly have police or customs officers on the whole of the length of the coast. And plus, France have offered to have a processing centre on French soil. This government, God forbid that we should accept help from foreigners, have refused. That would solve many, many of the problems.
Angela, have we refused?
Well, I don't know whether that's a kind of a fair blanket statement to say that we don't want help from foreigners. I think we have to get this wheel out of the mud about this being this kind of isolated entity post-Brexit, and we don't want to dialogue with other nations for the greater good. The fact is, Linda, and I appreciate your perspective, what else are we supposed to do? And I know I'm being a parrot, but in the absence of any other kind of change, I know you've made suggestions there, we have to have a deterrent. We have to say it is not a great option to come to this country because you'll be out and on your way somewhere you didn't intend to be. And in the absence of that, we don't have any other kind of option for trying to stop the small boats.
Linda, do you have any other suggestions other than entering the EU again?
Well, as I said, having a processing centre in France would be ideal.
All right, Linda, thank you very much for your call. We've actually ran out of time. Thanks for all your calls on this. After the break, Arjun, your doctor's right to announce that they're going to strike again, or have you lost sympathy for them now? 0207 862 2222 is the number for your thoughts on this one. We'll see you very soon.